What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. I know that these videos have been a little sporadic lately, but finally got around to seeing a film that I've been waiting to see for a while, and oh boy, strap in, cause this one is about to get nerdy. I've got my 20-sided die, and I am ready to roll. Let's get into it. Dungeons and Dragons: Honour Among Thieves is technically the fourth live-action Dungeons and Dragons movie to be released. I remember seeing the first one way back in like early 2000s, whenever it was it got released. And this was the age where everyone was like, oh, CG is like the new hotness. There's so much stuff that we can do with computer graphics. We can make things so real now. We don't need to rely on practical effects anymore. And that film really took that to new heights. And in doing so, it ended up being really crap, and there was just so much that was bad about that film. Needless to say, that was back when Dungeons and Dragons maybe wasn't quite as prolific as it is today. In recent years, Dungeons and Dragons has actually taken on this kind of pop culture wholesomeness that has inadvertently brought a lot of people together. Now, I am going to go on record right now, early on in this video, as saying yes, I have played my fair share of D&D, and I will go one step further and even reveal it that yes, I am in fact a rookie beginner dungeon master running my own games. And for the record, yes, that is my number one set of die, my heavy metal die. Heavy metal! But Dungeons and Dragons: Honour Among Thieves is nothing to do with those earlier films, and thank God for it, because actually, this film turned out to be a lot of fun. There are so many things in this film that aren't even like really deep cuts into D&D lore. Like, there's little mentions of places and names and creatures that are like, if you've played your fair share of D&D, you'll probably recognize them. If you haven't played any D&D at all, those are just names that are like, huh, I guess those are things that exist in D&D, and you would be right. But the main crux of the plot of Dungeons & Dragons: Honour Among Thieves is that Chris Pine's character Edgin and his cohort Holger are a bard and a barbarian, respectively. Although I believe Edgin is actually meant to be a bard who is previously a paladin of some kind. Because, let's be honest, he is a bard in this film, but he doesn't do bardy things. Like, there's no seduction of any mystical creatures at any point, because that joke is old hat now, and I appreciate that they didn't have a scene where the bard tried to seduce the big bad evil guy at any point, which and the plot is like not convoluted, but it does play out a little bit like a heist at some point. So without getting too much into the detail of the actual plot, which, you know, takes a while to explain, essentially they need to get their old band of adventuring party together, and maybe with some new faces involved, to break into a vault to steal some stuff that was originally stolen from them, but in the process kind of stumble upon something that's a little bit bigger than themselves, all the while trying to get Edgin's daughter back from the guy he left her in the charge of when he was caught robbing a place and had to go to prison for a while. And that's mainly like the crux of the plot, and it kind of elaborates on from there, which is actually something that I kind of wanted to touch upon. Something that I found quite clever about the storyline of this film, and in particular the way that it's told, is that it does inadvertently follow the way a storyline or a plot of an actual playable campaign might kind of reveal itself. It kind of comes in waves and stages. Like, there's a couple of fetch quests, there's a couple of swift turns in the storyline, there's a couple of reveals along the way. So I liked that in making a Dungeons and Dragons movie, they didn't rely solely on references to Dungeons and Dragons material or the ways of playing the game, but instead actually involved structure of D&D campaigns as a basis for its story. But let's get on to the characters. Chris Pine as Edgin the Bard, very likeable character. I'm not that much of a Chris Pine fan, but he did do a really good job in his character in this film, in the capacity that he's kind of a bard, but he's also a bit of a thief. He's also a little bit kind of underhanded in some parts. You have Holga, who is played by Michelle Rodriguez, who is the barbarian of the group. She is the muscle, not much in the way of intelligence or charisma on those kinds of saving throws. But she also does really well. She gets a couple of really great action scenes, which I really liked. And then you've got Simon the Sorcerer and Doric the Druid. Now, Simon the Sorcerer and Doric the Druid are definitely character names from pre-made character sheets, if ever I saw any. But again, they are both kind of the characters that come into themselves as well. Like, there's a couple of moments where they have their character arcs of growing and getting rid of self-doubt. I think Hugh Grant as Forge was a really good character in the sense that he's sort of the bad guy, but not really. Like, he's more just like a selfish character who is a means to an end for the BBEG. True fact, Wizards of the Coast, who make the Dungeons and Dragons game, right before this film got released stat blocks for all of the characters in this film, and Forge is actually listed as a rogue. Interesting, because you normally associate rogues with being very sneaky and underhanded, and not necessarily very garish and outlandish and full of charisma. But I guess when you think about it, the fact that Forge is in it for himself so much is very roguish. He will steal absolutely anything that he can. He puts himself before everyone else and will literally charmingly rogue his way out of any situation. So, yeah, extroverted rogues. And I've got to say that there is some humour in this film, and a lot of people have complained about some parts of the film, which I think I might dive into in a little bit. But one of the things they complained about was, oh, there's a lot of humour in this film. Why can't they take it seriously? Have you ever played D&D? Half of the game is you sat around with your friends making stupid puns. But I did like that the balance of humour was actually well paced in this film. It wasn't so much humour that it made things farcical or was badly placed or had that kind of Marvel-esque notion of using humour to break up tension at any point. There were moments for humour where the humour was right, and there were moments where there was no humour where it was also right. And I think one of the biggest complaints that I have heard about this film, which is, strap in, quite nerdy now, came right from the first trailer. A lot of people were going, oh, but druids, they can't wild shape into owlbears, because owlbears are listed as monstrosities and not beasts. At my table, a bear is a beast and an owl is a beast. Now, I don't know how you would get the two together to do whatever it is they would do, but an owlbear is a crossbreed, okay? Maybe I say that they can wild shape into that. Why not? I'm gonna roll for persuasion on that one. That is actually a natural 20 there. So, all in all though, I think the best part about Dungeons & Dragons Honour Among Thieves is that it's actually just fun. Like, the whole film was a great kind of action, adventure, heist movie with fun moments in it. I'll be honest, I took my mum to see this, and she was amazed that Hugh Grant was in it, and the guy from Bridgerton, but that's a whole other thing. And not canonically, maybe, but definitely in D&D culture, it is well known that each colour of gelatinous cube has a distinct flavour. Now, I imagine the light blue one that was involved in this film to be something akin to maybe Baja Blast that you would get from Taco Bell. Or maybe Gatorade. But she had a good time. She kinda now wants to play D&D. I might run a game, who knows? Overall though, I think that Dungeons & Dragons Honour Among Thieves was just a good time from start to finish. It did really well at telling a coherent story that you never got lost at any point or became too convoluted. The characters were likable and dislikable in equal measures where they were supposed to be, and it kind of gets you amped up for a little bit more and like to learn more about it, which is kind of a good thing, really. So with that in mind, Dungeons & Dragons Honour Among Thieves does get 4 stars from me. Am I a little bit biased because I already play D&D and I run D&D games? Maybe a little bit. Was it executed well? Yes. Did it use decent practical effects? Yes. Just look at the Dragonborn and the Aarakocra that are on the council in like the first 10-15 minutes of the film. Those are all practical costumes. So it used practical monsters for the most part. Was it just a good time to watch? Absolutely. And I think that's the thing that I enjoyed the most about this film, is that it was just an easy film to get into and enjoy, whether you've played Dungeons & Dragons or not. So, Dungeons & Dragons Honour Among Thieves. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Would you watch a follow-up to this film? What kind of D&D stuff would you want to see involved in a follow-up? And what character and class do you play as, and would you let me DM a game for you? Oh yeah. All comments are welcome in the comments section below. Let's talk super nerdy. As always, if you've enjoyed what you've seen here and you would like to see some more, you can click right here to subscribe and see some more funky fresh videos from yours truly. And until that point, I think we need to acknowledge that Themberchaud is now my chunky little boy. He made me so happy. He is the embodiment of Chungus that we all deserve in this day and age, and he is to be respected and revered.